You have a complicated product offering like ourselves, it will bring light to a slightly murky ICO market. And we think that we're bringing a really ready-to-launch business platform. Our managers of the portfolio, which will be paying the dividend, have over 100 years of portfolio management. And we are very excited to be bringing together the world of banking, Wall Street asset management, and dividends and returns to the cryptocurrency world.
You are listening to the Blockcast Show, where we talk with the world's leading entrepreneurs and innovators regarding blockchain technology and business. I am your host and technology lawyer, Doug Bridges, partner at Capital Legal Group. Today on episode 3 of the Blockcast Show, I am speaking with Austin Trombley, Chris Cummick, and Eric Clark of Vaultbank about how they are using their Wall Street experience to leverage blockchain to provide a unique investment firm. Hey guys, how are y'all doing today?
Doing well.
Hey Doug, how are you?
Great.
I'm doing good. Hey, why don't y'all just sort of explain what your different roles are really quick at Vaultbank so that everybody can understand who's online right now?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start. This is Austin Trombley. I'm the CTO. My background is in economics, business, and an MBA in finance, but I've been an engineer for 15 years. I've consulted for Wells Fargo, First Tennessee Bank, Visa, some of the largest banks in the world, and I'll leave it to Chris.
This is Christopher Cummick. I'm Managing Director of Vaultbank and co-founder. I've been in the securities management and portfolio management for over 10 years, specializing in tech and IPOs. We're really excited to talk to you about Vaultbank today.
And hi, this is Eric Clark. I'm the marketing manager at Vaultbank. I actually am a three-time entrepreneur, and I recently exited my last venture. And I'm excited to be on the Vaultbank team and give some more information about what's going on at Vaultbank today.
So Vaultbank right now, you're getting pretty close to your token offering that should be happening next month, right?
Yeah, so our pre-sale is starting this Friday. And the main sale is November 9th.
So is that keeping you pretty busy getting ready for that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing road shows across the West Coast and in New York, getting more and more institutions involved.
So why don't we go over what sort of offerings Vaultbank has and how it's going to be using blockchain to accomplish that. So, I mean, you've made some headlines with a lot of different things you're doing, but why don't you sort of describe what your core offerings are and how that uses blockchain?
Yeah, sure. So we partnered with AmbiSafe, and the founder of AmbiSafe is Andriy Zamovsky. So he was the chief architect of Tether back in 2010. And if you really think about one of the biggest value propositions we have, it's that Tether means that you literally own $1 in a bank account. The market cap of Tether today is something like 435 million, which means that there are 435 million Tethers out there where there's $1 in a bank account somewhere representing it. It was the first asset-backed crypto. With what we're building, it's actually backed by secured credit assets, where the yield of those assets actually go back and get paid back to the investor in one of two ways. One is by creating scarcity by purchasing up the coins in the secondary market, and then as well as quarterly dividends. Another part of our offering is the Vaultbank debit card. So there's a UK bank called Vaultbank, and Vaultbank has about 8,000 debit card holders. And their debit card is so smart that, if I, Austin Trombley, leave San Francisco and I go to Italy, they know that the local currency is euros and my default payment tender is US dollars. So they'll actually swap dollars for euros. And when you transact, you'll actually pay the merchant in the local currency in euros. And they do that at a very, very low industry low exchange rate. And so we're building microservices on top of that to allow the consumer to actually pay with Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Vaultbank token. So when you go to the point of sale systems, you'll actually be able to pay with Ether, and it will actually transact to the merchant in whatever the local currency is. And then I would say that the second part of this is Vaultbank does 17 fiat currencies, and they're currently building out the capability to do levered fiat investments as well. So aside from just supporting a lot of the major cryptocurrencies, we'll also have a very wide offering in the fiat as well.
All right. So with the token offering that's happening with the pre-sale starting shortly and then with the full offering happening in early November. If somebody wants to get involved in that, how do they go about doing that? And what happens with the money or with the tokens that they invest into Vaultbank?
Yeah, good question. So typically, the way that people partake and participate in ICOs is the easiest way is to buy Ether or Bitcoin out of their Coinbase account. Coinbase is a centralized exchange, so you cannot participate in ICOs out of your Coinbase account. If you try to, you're going to be just literally sending your money to Coinbase. So typically what will happen is after you buy Ether or Bitcoin, you transfer that your Ether or Bitcoin to another decentralized exchange, something like a Poloniex or an Ether Delta, and from there, there's a smart contract sitting behind the Vaultbank wallet ID. And so once you send it from your parity account into the ETH or Bitcoin in the total amount that you want to invest, into the Vaultbank wallet ID, which is with order book. So I highly encourage everybody to go and check out orderbook.io. We're working with the AmbiSafe team to help develop the secondary market a lot more and make it much more robust. And we're doing that in a joint venture with them as well after the ICO. But after you send it to our order book wallet ID, the smart contract automatically exercises to the exact amount that you sent in Ether or Bitcoin, and will send back your Vaultbank tokens. In order to make sure that your wallet supports ERC20 tokens, I highly suggest that you set up an order book wallet ID and you participate in it through that decentralized exchange.
Now, before they get involved in that, do they need to vet themselves as customers for you before they can invest in the pre-sale?
Yeah, it's absolutely. So we do have a KYC and AML. So we are filing as a security. We are registering with the SEC, with the Reg D and a Reg S. And so as a part of being a security, we are following all the laws associated with accreditation, KYC, and AML.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because most companies who are in the blockchain area are doing everything they can to avoid being considered a security.
That's right.
Either by doing a SAFT transaction like Filecoin did, so that was considered a security, but the coins themselves were not. Or many companies who are trying to characterize themselves as utility tokens so that they don't have to be securities, or so they think. Obviously, the law is still somewhat up in the air with respect to the United States and the SEC. Why did you decide to make your tokens be securities?
I can speak to that, Doug. This is Christopher Kemick, Managing Director. We saw the ICO market and the white paper market and just the way that the utility tokens were coming to market, and we thought that we could apply our skills as fund managers, as people with experience in banking and with hedge funds, and apply the transparency and audited financial statements. And we thought it was way smarter to register as a security token. And there are less than 6 tokens in the world currently that have registered this way. And we welcome the regulation. We welcome the transparency that it requires. It did require us to go through a lot more legal loopholes. But in the end, we believe that when you have a complicated product offering like ourselves, it will bring light to a slightly murky ICO market. And we think that we're bringing a really ready to launch business platform, and our managers of the portfolio, which will be paying the dividend, have over 100 years of portfolio management, and we are very excited to be bringing together the world of banking, Wall Street asset management, and dividends and returns to the cryptocurrency world.
Now, with your token being a security, how does that affect its liquidity and how it can be? You can't run on a regular token exchange for it to sit around with the regular laws.
So we do. In order to comply with the local laws and being a security, if you are going to invest in our ICO and you are in the United States, there is a 1-year lockup. So there's, for countries like China and other countries where they don't have the same appreciation for accreditation or and they don't have lockups, It does not apply to them, but we do follow whatever the local jurisdictional law is for you from wherever you currently reside and live.
Yes, this information will be available on our website. It's roughly 15 nations which either require an accredited investor status or a qualified investor status. We're going to have a document which clearly lays out which ones you're outright banned, which is only a few, 2 to 3 nations, but then most are accredited status, which usually means you need $200,000 in personal income, $300,000 for a joint filing couple, or $1 million in investable assets.
And so if they're an accredited investor, will they have to have the lockup or just in the United States?
In the United States, yes, they will. Outside of the United States, it depends on what the local laws are there. We'll have those posted. Our SEC attorneys are Garnier, Margosian, and Schartz Friese here in San Francisco.
Correct. We'll have a one-page document detailing exactly which areas are locked up for a year, where you need to be accredited or a qualified investor. Some of them you just need to jump through some loopholes in order to purchase it, but then there is no lockup period. Other ones you need to jump through the legal loopholes and then also be locked up. But we will have a clearly stated document approved by attorneys on our website within 24 hours.
Since the tokens are securities, I mean, what is their relationship to Vaultbank, the company itself?
Yep, so it actually represents the equity in the company. So in an ideal situation, if 2-3 years from now we were to get bought out by a major institution, a Wall Street bank that sat on the sidelines while there was all this growth, those funds would actually be distributed back to the token holders, and the token would go away. So it is actually the raw equity in the company.
Now, I assume it's a non-voting equity.
That's very right. That's very true. Thank you for that distinction.
Now, how is the equity in the company distributed among the token pool?
So about 67% will be going to the public markets, and the rest will go towards joint ventures with Vaultbank and Ambisafe and the team.
Now, once you do this pre-sale, I mean, what sort of capitalization are you looking forward to through your pre-sale?
We're looking to raise $100 million right now. We've already raised a pretty substantial amount prior to the pre-sale with very interesting people. But we have hard caps on both. So the hard cap on the pre-sale is $40 million, and the hard cap on the main sale is $100.
And then how will Vaultbank use the money it raises? Yeah,
so 80% of the funds will go towards building the secured credit fund, which pays out the dividends. And 17% will go towards development, so stitching together the technology that is Vaultbank with the secondary market exchange trading platform and building the microservices around that will take probably about 15 engineers here in San Francisco. We'll have our offices at One Market, and 3% goes towards operations.
So the funding that you're creating, I mean, how are you using the money to, I mean, you're getting in a lot of money, then you're going to try to use that money to make more money. How are you going to do that? Yeah,
so we'll be allocating that using Random Forest Capital's credit engine. So they've got access to tons of very, very high-yielding paper like MCA. They've got secured fix and flip, secured auto. We're working with Mitsubishi right now for the credit warehouse facility. They're comfortable levering the paper at different levels based on the asset class type. So, for instance, secured auto, they're comfortable levering 4-to-1. Secured fix and flip, residential and commercial, 4-to-1. QM, non-QM residential paper, 10-to-1. So they'll be using their artificial intelligence and machine learning credit engine to build the high-yielding portfolios.
And so these assets, which you'll be investing in with this fund, they're primarily loans that are being bought up or being invested into?
Exactly, secured loans. That's right.
And so how does their machine learning and artificial intelligence, I mean, how are y'all leveraging that to make sure you're buying good assets?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the last year and a half, they've consistently outperformed double-digit returns. So right now, unlevered, they're returning 12.5%, 13%. So when you add lever to that, it gets very interesting. And so they've consistently proven that they can build really, really high-yielding portfolios without too much concentration and too much risk in one asset class.
And so then any revenue that you gain, how much of that will be distributed out as a dividend versus being reinvested?
100% of that will go towards. We'll be buying up the token in the secondary market as well. That number will change over time depending on how the token is performing. So both the dividend and buying up the token in the secondary market will equal 100%. But what that share is will change over time. At the beginning, it'll be mostly dividends.
Right. And if you're buying up the tokens on the secondary market, that should drive up the value of the token, which would benefit the holders as is.
Exactly. We're hoping to create scarcity. Absolutely.
And so separate from the investment fund is your prepaid debit card offering. Is that right? Or how do those two interact?
Yeah. So the debit card functionality is going to be built with that 17% development portion. So it's already a standing product. It's called Vaultbank. They've been doing this for about 5-6 years, and they currently have 8,000 debit card holders and transact on 17 different fiat FX currencies. The microservices that will allow for you to transact on crypto will take us 3 to 6 months to build.
And so then with that service, I mean, is your expectation that somebody can just go online and sign up for this prepaid debit card and then deposit Ethereum or Bitcoin or other type of currencies to use it?
Yeah, any of the 17 fiat that we support, or any of the three, at the beginning, the three crypto, we'll be expanding that number over time.
And I mean, does your system keep that stored in however it's deposited, or how does it keep track of the exchanges?
That's right. So just like any other exchange right now, there's a wallet for each one of your different types of assets. And so Vaultbank will have a different US dollar wallet from its Euro wallet, from its Ethereum wallet, from its Bitcoin wallet. That's the right way to think of it.
And then when you go and want to pay using your card, you can, I guess, select online which wallet you're wanting to pull out of?
Exactly. You have to choose a default tender with your account when you go online and sign in.
Now, a lot of the investments in the Bitcoin space and in the blockchain space have been somewhat volatile. And I mean, I think that a lot of people who are looking at investing into a fund, which is then going to leverage their investment to go into secured assets, might be concerned about the risks they'd be facing, even using machine learning to do some of it. I mean, how can people be sure about those risks they're going to be facing?
Sure. What I would tell you is having it secured by secured credit assets is safer than the US dollar, which is what Tether is built on, and there's 435 million Tethers outstanding. And if you look at 99% of the other ICOs, they're backed by nothing. So as far as there being risk when you're investing in credit, sure, there's risk when you invest in anything. But of all the different types of asset classes, getting the least volatile that we've found, when you compare it to other liquid things like equities or currencies, it's much, much more stable. And because of the way that we're approaching it, we're weeding out a lot of the pump and dump people. And we've also got a 1-year lock on management. So, it's not like Tim Draper and Tezos where we're actually going to, the management team is going to dump it in the first 6 hours and take its money and run. We're actually building a product here, and we expect to be around a year from now.
And what levels of dividends would people be expecting from the investment fund?
It's really hard to promise that. I can tell you that we have audited returns. We will be using KPMG as our auditor, and because of being a security, we'll have quarterly postings of those returns. I can tell you right now we have audited returns of 12.5%, 13%, and you should expect that, but with leverage.
Now, what sort of work have y'all been putting into on the development side of this to stitch everything together?
Yeah, so we've already hired a couple engineers and mobile app developers, and they're already starting to tease out the code. And we've been working with Vaultbank. They've got a really robust documentation around their APIs, so stitching them together should be absolutely doable.
Now, you mentioned you've already had some interesting private investors looking at it. How's the roadshows going these days for getting the investments going in Vaultbank?
Yeah, sure. So I can tell you guys that you should check out vaultbank.io for our leadership. We've got a couple updates from the board of directors. Aaron Oliver, who's a former head of digital commerce at MasterCard, MEA, he's on our board. He's going to be working with CJ McDonald, who was a founder of Gift, which was one of the first plasticless cards that sold the first data. So they're going to be steering the card portion of this. And then from a portfolio perspective and banking advice, we got Ken Kroner on our board today. He's the former CIO of BlackRock. We also have Andrei Zamovsky, who's the former chief architect of Tether. David Mon, who is advising us on the regulating body phase for Navigant, where so when it comes time to work even further with the SEC, we've got the right people to get in front of them and help explain what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it the right way.
Now, as part of your pre-sale and as your token offering, you have a bounty program that you're offering as well. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we've got bounties for everything down to translating our white paper into your local language. There's about 6 or 7 different bounties that we have. I highly suggest taking a look at vaultbank.io. If you have any questions about how to collect on those, at the very, very top of the page, you'll see our Telegram channel. If you click on the folded airplane Telegram icon, you can join the conversation, and you can chat directly with the Embassy team to find out what you need to do in order to collect on the bounties.
Right, that'll directly connect you also to Eric Clark, our marketing manager, and you can answer any questions about Vaultbank, about our debit cards, about our offering, or the bounty program.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here a little bit with a little bit more information on the bounty program. More detail is going to be coming out on that on bitcointalk.org. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing the official announcement about the ICO, or about the token sale on there. And along with that is going to be all the detail about the bounty program and also the official bounty manager. So there's additional detail that everyone's going to be able to find out there, and that's officially on October 25th is when that'll be up.
Thanks, Eric. It seems like y'all are trying to bootstrap up a lot of things and pull in a lot of services together, and your team has a huge amount of finance background. What sort of non-finance things have you run into while getting the company going that have caused you challenges to start up a blockchain company?
Well, this is one of the reasons why we teamed up with AmbiSafe, because they're one of the best blockchain and ICO providers in the world. You're absolutely right. Most of our board and our executives have backgrounds in finance, banking, and hedge funds, portfolio management. But we knew that when we brought in Andrei Zamovsky and Patrick Barron of AmbiSafe that we would be marrying our expertise with one of the leading ICO and blockchain companies in the world. Andrei Zamovsky, we can't speak enough about his resume and his professionalism and how influential he is in the blockchain world. His company, AmbiSafe, saw our vision, saw how we could bring together financial services, returns, and usability through the debit cards and create an amazing user interface and bring everything in-house for the Vaultbank team. Yeah, so they've got about 50 blockchain engineers from here to Kiev. And so partnering with them, we actually have a 1.5-year agreement to co-engineer this together.
And so has that put the leadership group mostly up to this point on the marketing and roadshow side of things to get the investments going to start the company up?
We're definitely in a divide and conquer phase. There's executive leadership running the debit card functionality. There's executive leadership running the marketing. So we've really taken a divide and conquer route to trying to make sure that we bring this to market with, as much of a true offering as possible, with as much standing product as possible.
Now, after you raise these funds, how long will it take before you're able to get the portfolio together to begin investing in assets? I assume you're going to have to convert a lot of the investments that come in as Ethereum or Bitcoin into fiat currency to be able to do the investments.
That's right. Yeah, so it will take us about 2 weeks before we liquidate all of the investments that come in through the pre-sale and the main sale. and we can actually put that money to work in assets. But the answer is less than 30 days.
And we think this is what really just makes us a very distinct ICO offering, is that most of the white papers that we read said that they have great ideas and platforms that they intend to develop, but most of it, the work and the coding and development hasn't happened at all. They raise the money and they intend to have things happen, so the realization of whatever their business plan is could be 6 months, year, maybe even 2 years out. We have the debit cards ready to go. Our order book platform with AmbiSafe is currently accepting money for ICOs. The platform with Random Forest Capital and the purchasing of credit assets, that can happen, as Austin said, within 2 weeks.
So you're not the pre-development stage. You feel you're much more in almost, I won't say beta level, but I mean you're close to being able to do what you need to do as an operating company rather than
absolutely
floundering around for another 6 months.
Yeah, that definitely sets us apart. You're not investing in an idea.
Now, one thing that I found interesting about Vaultbank was that a lot of hedge fund investments and other types of investments have generally not been available to people who are not very high net worth, not just accredited investors, but people who, at least in the United States, had large amounts of money to invest into the hedge fund itself. So can you talk sort of about how fractionalization of the coins allows for a greater opportunities for people to invest in these types of investments?
Sure. I think that having being both a security and a utility, anytime where you are actually going to use it as tender, the Vaultbank token, having that ability to reduce it down to the social equivalent to a penny is critical, because it makes the utility of it that much more usable.
Now, is there a minimum investment for people to invest into the pre-sale or the regular token offering?
There's not, no.
Most people I know who don't get involved in hedge funds and investments like that, this seems like an opportunity if they're an accredited investor without having to pony up $200,000 to put into a hedge fund.
Yeah, a lot of hedge funds that we've seen here on the West Coast have minimums of 250 to 500,000, and that's very important.
Now, what's your goal for what you see Vaultbank doing 5 years down the road, if you've even thought out that far?
Yeah, no, we have. I think we're trying to decentralize all financial services. So there are a lot of dApps or decentralized apps that could solve for, like, take Wells Fargo, right? When I consulted for their commercial enterprise portal, they had 133 different products that did about 1 trillion in transactions a month, or 13 trillion a year. Each one of those different products could be solved for with a dApp, where it's better for the consumer, it's faster, it's cheaper, and it's more transparent. So I think if you really start to look at the motto of trying to disintermediate financial services, you'll share the vision that we have, that in 5 years there are a ton of banking products that are a sticking point where the fees are prohibitively expensive and the customer service is awful, and there's just a much better way to do this. And
how does blockchain enable y'all to do that, to just sort of cover these areas which haven't been addressed these days?
Sure, and a lot of that surrounds some of the places where blockchain's fallen on its face, right? So the first one was that there would be instant immutable transactions, right? Just because it's on the blockchain. But if you look at some of the exchanges, including Coinbase, if you buy Ether or Bitcoin, it can take up to 7 days for that to settle in your account. Traditional old equities can settle your account today in 2 or 3 days. And then, if you really think about why is it that cryptocurrency hasn't caught on to the masses, it's because the fees are so insanely expensive. So in order to buy in through Coinbase, it's 1.4%. In order to sell, it's 1.4%. So that's 2.8% round trip. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to transact that way in every transaction, because it's just way too expensive. So it's only been really lent for speculators. And so we're really trying to solve for those two issues and many, many more.
Another issue we're trying to solve for is the lack of real business plan behind some of the new ICOs. Many people have already adopted Bitcoin and Ethereum, But of the new ICOs, what do their white papers really say? What is their offering? It's usually just to develop some sort of idea or build some sort of platform or technology. And many of these will take off and do well. But from the white papers that we read and we compared ourselves to when we started in this endeavor, we always said to ourselves, why wouldn't we build a real business plan and have a real hedge fund offering, liquidity, and marrying of banking services with a cryptocurrency, and beat people on fees and their ability to have usability in their pocket with a debit card and actually receive a dividend. Nobody's paying a dividend.
Right, and I think it's widely said, that ideas are a dime a dozen, and it seems like a lot of ICOs are interesting ideas, interesting protocols that are put down into a white paper, but the actual monetization of that protocol, a way to make money off of what their idea is often lacking.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm a part of a token founders group. There's about 40 of us here in San Francisco. And we met up, and I heard a couple pitches the other week. Of those, it was about 10 people in the room. Of them, I would say about half of them were people saying that they wanted to do an ICO as a utility when they were a security. And those same people were typically solutions looking for a problem. The other half were ideas that could have been done in a database. They didn't need to be done on blockchain. So I think what you're saying is very, very true. And even furthermore, monetizing on these ideas at sometimes when the teams are really immature and young and haven't proven that they can execute, makes your investment, precarious at best.
Yeah, but they won't want you to call it an investment, obviously.
Oh yeah, exactly, because they're not a security, so they can't, right? And that's exactly, why what we're doing is so unique.
I think we're just going to wrap up for today because this is a lot of information to pull together. I appreciate you hopping on for the interview.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank y'all. Thank you for listening to the Blockcast Show with Doug Bridges of Capital Legal Group. If you like our show and would like to know more, please check out blockcastshow.com or capitallegalgroup.com. Also, please leave us a review on iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter at Blockcast Show.